In 1986, a 20-year-old man named Christopher Knight drove his car into the Maine woods, abandoned it, and walked away from human contact entirely. He didn't resurface for 27 years. What happened to his mind during those decades reveals something most people never think about: what social isolation actually does to a human brain when it's stretched to its absolute limit. Part 1. The Disappearance. Knight left no note, made no plan, and told no one. He simply walked into the forest near North Pond and built a hidden camp among a cluster of boulders, a mile from the nearest cabins. For the next 27 years, by his own account, he did not speak to another human being, not once, except for a single brief hello to a hiker. He survived by breaking into nearby summer cabins at night, ultimately committing over 1,000 burglaries for food, batteries, and books, always vanishing before anyone saw him. Locals in the area lived for years suspecting a ghost story more than a real person, until police finally caught him in 2013. Part 2. What isolation actually did to him. When he was finally interviewed after his arrest, Knight described something unexpected. He didn't describe his decades alone as suffering in the way people assumed. He described a kind of heightened perception, noticing the world with unusual clarity, undistracted by other people. But he also described something stranger and more troubling: a loss of identity. Without another person to reflect himself against, no conversation, no relationship, no one to be a version of himself for, he described his sense of self becoming thin, almost see-through. When he was finally forced back into society, he reported genuine disorientation just from ordinary human interaction, the basic rhythm of conversation feeling foreign to him after decades of silence. Knight's mind stayed remarkably stable compared to what researchers might have predicted. But most people who experience prolonged isolation don't fare nearly as well, and that gap between Knight's case and the general pattern is exactly what makes this worth understanding. Part 3. What happens to an ordinary person? For most people, isolation doesn't produce clarity, it produces decline. Extended isolation studies, from solitary confinement research to Antarctic expedition crews to cave-dwelling isolation experiments, consistently report the same pattern. Within days, mood destabilizes. Within weeks, cognitive performance drops. Memory, concentration, and decision-making all measurably decline. Sleep cycles drift completely out of sync with day and night. Some isolated subjects begin hallucinating simple sounds and voices within a matter of months, the brain apparently generating social stimulation it's no longer receiving. This isn't a character flaw or a sign of weakness. It's a basic biological response. Human brains evolved inside constant social contact, and removing that input entirely causes the same kind of system stress as removing food or sleep. Part 4. The part that actually kills people. Here's the fact that reframes everything. Isolation isn't just uncomfortable. Large population studies tracking hundreds of thousands of people found that a genuine lack of social connection raises the risk of early death by roughly 26%, a magnitude of risk comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Researchers believe part of the mechanism runs through chronic stress. Prolonged loneliness keeps the body's stress hormone, cortisol, elevated for extended periods, which in turn raises blood pressure, weakens immune response, and increases inflammation throughout the body. In other words, the danger of isolation isn't purely psychological. It shows up as a measurable physical illness. Part 5. Why humans are built this way. So why would isolation cause this much damage? The answer sits in how the human brain evolved in the first place. For nearly all of human history, survival depended entirely on group membership: shared food, shared defense, shared information about danger. A human alone, historically, was a human in far greater danger of dying. So the brain developed a built-in alarm system for disconnection: loneliness. The same way hunger signals you're missing food, loneliness signals you're missing something your biology still treats as essential for survival: other people. Christopher Knight's calm during his decades alone appears to be a genuine exception, not the rule, and even he described real psychological cost once returned to the world. For almost everyone else, the alarm doesn't go quiet just because it's ignored. It gets louder.